Hola a todos, bienvenidos. Programa muy especial hoy porque es una mezcla entre contenido del club, lo vamos a dar en abierto solo el directo, entrevistas, veo que ya somos como 150 personas aproximadamente, lo cual es bastante porque no hemos promocionado, pero vamos a hacer entrevista al CEO de District Metals, el bueno de Garrett, que tenemos aquí con nosotros. Hello Garrett, how are you doing?
Hey Cappy, thanks guys for having me on. It's great to be here.
Busy day, right?
Very busy day, very busy week, but today was pretty wild for sure.
Yeah, it's been definitely. And we will speak about all those details. So first of all, thank you for being here. I know that you have a really good relationship with Mr. Timbit. So I also say thank you to him, because thanks to him, you are here. So thanks both for your time. And Mr. Timbit, also thank you for everything that you are sharing with the community, because it's been very, very useful for us, okay? And then about this video, as I said, this is content that we put on the club. So basically, cuando acabemos la entrevista, vamos a cerrar el vídeo y quedará solo para la gente del club. Y también lo que vamos a hacer es, probablemente grabemos mañana pasado un vídeo, Mr. Timbit, Cipres y yo, con nuestras impresiones de todo lo que ha pasado, que también será contenido del club. Así que si alguien está interesado en tener más información del club, nos puede escribir a nuestro email info@momentum.financial, ¿vale? info@momentum.financial, nos escribís ahí si queréis saber más sobre el club y listo.
En el club irá con subtítulos en español, ¿vale? Si ahora veis que os cuesta mucho, pensad que luego en un par de horas debería estar con subtítulos en español para que entendáis todo. Y aquí estoy hablando, Garrett, thank you very much for your time, because for all the community it's an honor, and most important today, which is a crazy day, and there are a lot of people invested in district metals in this community, and it will be very helpful for us being able to talk to you.
Yeah, no, this is great. I mean, I really appreciate all the support that we have out of Spain, and I saw that firsthand in April when I went to the True Investing conference in Madrid, and it was excellent. So yeah, I'm really happy to be here, especially on an important day like today.
Perfect. So let's start today. Press conference of the Minister for Climate and the Environment, the lady Romina. Okay, so what is your view, first of all, on everything that she said?
So first off, nothing there was a surprise. It was all very positive. It's exactly what we've been hearing through the media, through various press releases from the government. And the reason, my understanding for that press briefing was just to prepare the media, the public, the policymakers, politicians, parliament, to get everyone ready for what's coming in Q4. And I mean, it's also end of Q3 as well. So there's going to be some work. I guess tomorrow, the bill to lift the uranium ban is getting put forth, and then there'll be a bunch of meetings in September. There'll be a special committee meeting in October, and it looks like the vote could happen in November. But I'm also told that even if it happens in December, because nothing really goes according to plan quite often when it comes to politics. But the key thing that the government is focused on is getting this bill to lift the uranium moratorium approved before the end of the year, so that the change to legislation can occur on January 1st, 2026. The government has said over and over again they have a majority to approve this bill. We've done work with our public affairs company, and once a bill makes it to Parliament, statistically speaking, it's approved 96% of the time. So government in power will never bring a bill into Parliament to be voted on unless they feel very confident it's going to get approved, because then they're just wasting everyone's time. So,
okay.
But the words from Romina were very, very strong. And she even touched on the municipal veto. And I mean, we'll talk about that more in detail, but that's also very positive. Separate legislation that's aiming for July 1st, 2026.
Okay, so I think that here, the way I see it, there are like two different parts. The first one is the national ban. Okay, so the national ban, they have the votes. They will vote, as you said, like probably in November. They have the majority, let's say 97, 98% sure that it will be approved. So you have the national ban out, okay? But then we have the local veto. So my concern based on what Romina said today, it was that one. And I'm going to read a couple of things, okay, about what she said, and then I will ask you about it, okay?
Yep.
Okay, so she said, uranium will be a concessionary mineral under the minerals law, and the municipal veto will be limited to large nuclear installations, exempting small operations supervised by the Radiological Safety Authority. That's the first one. And the second one is that the municipal veto will only be effective in cases of small amounts of uranium, such as byproducts, since January 1st, 2026. So here we are speaking about the size, small operations, and small amounts of uranium. The question is like, are we part of that? Yes or no?
The bigger kind of topic that's being changed with the municipal veto is the municipal veto is not applicable to uranium mining. So we could actually go and mine the Viken deposit if we had the permits like now. We would have to take the uranium, put it back in the tailings. What the municipal veto is applicable towards right now currently is that the processing of uranium ore into yellowcake, because that is considered a nuclear activity. And so what the plan is for that to change is there's going to be a separate change to the Nuclear Act, whereby processing of uranium ore into yellowcake will no longer be classified as a nuclear activity, because it's not really. If you're enriching it, yeah, I'd say that's a nuclear activity. So by removing it as a nuclear activity, the municipal veto will no longer be applicable to any part of uranium processing.
Okay, so basically, just to be clear, what you are telling us is that even with the veto right now, you could extract the uranium, but what you can't do right now with that veto is the cake.
Yeah, that's right.
But you could sell it, like, hey, okay, I will put this on a truck and sell it elsewhere, and they can do it.
Yeah, the uranium ore itself, like if you just pulled it out of the ground, it'd be too low grade to transport anywhere. So you would want to process it on site into a yellow cake product. But what we could do with Viken is we could mine and process the vanadium, the potash, the molybdenum, the nickel, the copper, the zinc, and any rare earths. But the uranium would have to go back in the tailings. That's the current state right now. And that's part of the argument as well for the current government. They're saying, it doesn't make any sense to mine an alum shale deposit and then have to put the uranium back in the tailings, because you're actually creating potentially more of an environmental problem by putting, the uranium back in rather than recovering, 80 to 90% of it.
Okay, and it seems also that when the minister was speaking about it, there were also some references to byproduct, kind of like, okay, if we have a mine where the main mining is not uranium, but there is uranium, we should be allowing that, and there shouldn't be a veto on that. So do you consider district metals under that kind of type of mine?
Uranium is a byproduct out of the Viken deposit, for sure it is. Yeah.
Okay. So basically, how impacted do you think that you are at this point based on what she said on the municipal veto?
As long as that progresses positively and they change the legislation how they've said they are going to change it, because they put out a press release in the first part of July, and it got into the details of the municipal veto and how they're going to tackle it. So, Romina was probably on the spot. She was probably talking bits and pieces of it, but the best piece of information to go off of is what the government previously released in early July regarding the municipal veto. And you can tell that it is what it is, because you've got, the Green Party screaming that that's a terrible thing, and yeah, I mean, when you see the opposition getting really upset, it's probably good for what we're trying to do.
Okay, perfect. And then the last one, based on what she said, and I'm kind of quoting, but it's like, the album sale with environmental risks continues to be regulated by strict laws since 2022, requiring suitability tests. The communities will maintain influence through planning and environmental evaluations. So we are an album sale mine, right, in Beacon?
Correct. Yeah, exactly.
Okay. So can you tell us about that specific regulation that is for that kind of product?
Yeah. So funny thing, the last government, which was a center-left government, they were the Social Democrats that were being propped up by the Green Party. They actually did a government inquiry into alum shales, and that came out in December of 2020. And the conclusions of that inquiry report was that alum shale mining is no more hazardous to the environment than any other type of deposit being mined in Sweden. And that was like full stop. But then it also said, there is potential for acid rock drainage. So, good hydrologic water controls of surface water and groundwater need to be kind of done to make sure you don't get acid generating runoff that's going off site or whatnot. So I think that's kind of directed towards the acid rock drainage that might be carrying some heavy metals in it. But again, the Viken deposit, it's not super high grade. So like the arsenic levels are quite low. Like cadmium low, selenium low. Those are all deleterious metals. Yeah. Antimony used to be a deleterious metal, but now it's positive. But it's antimony is quite low. When you look at some of the base metal polymetallic deposits in Sweden, they can have like percentages of arsenic, like up to 1, 2, 3, 4% arsenic and percentages of mercury. You do not find that in alum shales. It's not like that.
Okay, so clean and easy, it seems.
Yeah, it's like the deleterious metal content is low in these alum shales.
Okay, perfect. And then speaking about kind of the local government, let's say that there is no veto, that they cannot do any kind of veto. You can go ahead and you can, for example, start asking for the permits, etc. Are there any ways that they can stop the mining? Like, okay, maybe I can be like 2 years to give you this kind of permit that you need to continue with the process, etc. So how do you consider that part? Because it seems like local government there is really against the mine. Yes,
you're correct. And I mean, maybe as a bit of background, before we even picked up the Viken licenses, we learned a lot about the municipal veto in regards to the processing of uranium ore into yellowcake. And we talked to lawyers, consultants, and the takeaway was it's not likely that a municipal mechanism would override a federal law such as the Mineral Act. So if it went to court, it's more like it's never been tested in court. But if it did go to court, it's more likely that it would get pushed in favor of the federal government, not the municipal government. Obviously, you don't want that, and you want as many obstacles taken away. So if the municipal veto's, not applicable to the processing of uranium ore to yellowcake, perfect. There is another mechanism where the municipalities can try to slow the process down, and that's with development permits. They can say, no, we don't want you to develop a permit. But here's what's happening at Viken is the Geological Survey of Sweden is in the process of reviewing the Viken deposit as potentially designating it as a area of national interest for mining of vanadium. And that's because vanadium is a critical raw material. Yeah. So that's only going to help, in the permitting stage. But I should also mention there's a recent example of, I think it's Talga Graphite. They were trying to permit their Vitangi graphite mine up in the north. And the municipality was causing them all sorts of grief with their development permits. And the federal government said, "Man, like, listen, this is ridiculous. This is, we need this mine." And they just pushed it through. They went over top of the municipality.
Okay.
This is a key point. Is really the feeling of the high ranks of the European Union and the Sweden country, are they really moving to make real a production of rare earth here in Europe? As much as you know,
I understand what you are saying. What Cypress is asking is if European Union and Sweden, like there is a lot of minerals, four minerals that looks like that they are on the list to be the most required for Europe. If Europe can press to the national government in order to apply for that permits fast, because they really need it.
Yeah, this is more than Sweden. Absolutely. You're correct. This is a European Union. I wouldn't be surprised if this is a NATO push. NATO. And it's all this geopolitical turmoil that's probably really putting a lot of pressure to push through projects that have critical, push through projects to become mines that are critical, that have critical raw materials. I think that's a huge driver of this. If Russia had not invaded Ukraine, we probably, we might not be here to the level we are right now. But there's an urgency for the EU to have its own secure supply of important and critical raw materials. And the other big change is obviously when Russia invaded Ukraine and the cost of energy went up 3 to 4 times in Sweden. And when it hits the general public in their wallet by that much, all of a sudden people start going, well, maybe we really need to go back to nuclear because something's not working here. So that's been another driver as well, because Sweden's always been known for a very low cost of energy, and that all got destroyed in 2022.
Okay, one question that for me was key, and just to have a bit more information, you were saying that they kind of, I don't know if the government or any agency on the government or whatever was trying to consider Viken because of the vanadium kind of national interest, something like that. When that could happen, like, do you have any kind of timing there?
Yeah, it hopefully before the end of the year. They haven't like set a time, but we were talking to them earlier this year, and they were, we were giving them data that's a lot of it's publicly available from the last work that was done on the Viken deposit, and they're also reviewing our next door neighbors, Aura Energy's Hagen deposit as well. Yeah. So, and then in Sweden, there's not a lot that happens in July and August. So hopefully they're getting back to it, and hopefully we will see something before the end of the year on that. Potentially getting a designation. Yeah. And what it does is if you get this designation of national interest for vanadium, then it elevates the land use for mining above everything else, above transportation corridors, agriculture, forestry, tourism. It puts it at the top. So
okay. And what are the chances that will happen?
That one I'm not sure about. It's it's not as clear to me as the lifting of the uranium moratorium. So, and it obviously hasn't been as public as well.
Okay, perfect. Then just to start closing with this in terms of regulation, there was a lot of talk on the 100 kilograms of uranium threshold. So I don't know if you can speak about it so we have a better idea.
Yes, that's great. I'm glad you brought that up. It's super confusing. Even when I saw it, I was like, what is going on here? So initially, that 100 kilograms of uranium is more applicable to wastewater from a wastewater site. That's not really. There was a bit of confusion that that was going to be the end all be all. And there's some connection to the municipal veto on that, but no, there's not. It's that's more for a wastewater project or up in the north, there's projects with like an iron ore deposit in Kiruna that's got rare earth elements. It's got a lot of thorium, not a lot, but it's got enough thorium and uranium where it's almost considered, it's not economic, but it's more like a deleterious metal. And so they also found from certain operations, and not just mining operations, that the level of uranium in wastewater was above the standards. So this is adjusting the standards to allow for more like dealing with wastewater, because the standards were too low. So something to really be aware of there. So there's two different legislations that are being pushed right now by the current government. The first one being lifting of the uranium moratorium to allow exploration and mining of uranium. And there's two different laws that will be changed. For the lifting the uranium moratorium, it's going to be the Minerals Act that'll allow for exploration, and then the Environmental Code that will allow for uranium mining. So that's the government said they're looking to change that legislation as of January 1st, 2026. The vote will happen in Q4 of this year. The second one, totally separate, is the municipal veto. And that is encompassing, like I said before, making it so the processing of uranium ore into yellowcake is no longer a nuclear activity, and therefore making it so the municipal veto is no longer applicable to that processing. And that's going to be a change to the Nuclear Act. And that the government says they want to change that as of July 1st, 2026.
Okay, right. Now I get it because right now for you, the important one is the first one, because that means that on 1st January, you can start drilling. Let's say, of course, you need to get the permits, etc. But you can do the PEA. We will speak later about it. But you can start drilling, so you know exactly what do you have in Viken. And of course, you are not going to be 3 months later having the yellow cake there. I mean, having the mine working, it takes years. So
exactly, yeah. So I mean, even if I guess it's not essential that the veto is removed from processing. Obviously, it's a better situation because it's an obstacle that you have to go through. And, we want to minimize the obstacles. There's enough obstacles in this business. Yeah. But I mean, even if the municipal veto got, in terms of where we're at, how far away we are from actually mining, even if it did happen later on, then that, it wouldn't really be it wouldn't affect what we're doing on the exploration and development of our Viken property and other uranium properties. But the sooner the better, because I think it provides people with more comfort from an investment standpoint.
Okay, and just to close with this, I think it's September next year. There are national elections in the country. So of course now one of the reasons that the ban lifting is so close is because there is a majority in the parliament right now that is allowing that, right? How concerned you are with the September 26th elections, basically?
Yeah, that's a good question, because obviously the last government that was center left, they were the Social Democrats and the Green Party. They're the ones that wanted to phase out nuclear energy. And then they said, well, because we're phasing out nuclear energy, we don't need to mine uranium. So we're just going to put a moratorium on uranium mining. Things have changed now, though, because now the Social Democrats, which are the biggest party in Sweden, they're actually okay with nuclear energy. They understand. I don't know if they want to build anymore. I think they're kind of mixed. There's a younger Social Democrats are such a big party that there's a younger generation within that's actually quite pro nuclear and open to uranium mining. Then there's the old guard of the Social Democrats. And I think the old guard went through Chernobyl, and that was a bit traumatizing for them, with how it prevented them from eating reindeer and picking berries and mushrooms for a period of time because of the fallout from Chernobyl.
Yeah.
So that old guard is, eventually going to retire, and this new guard, like the younger generation of social democrats, are much more positive on nuclear energy. But given that, how things have changed on Sweden's stance for nuclear energy, it becomes much more difficult for the social democrats to justify going back and banning uranium mining if they're going to keep going with nuclear energy and not phase it out. Because that was the argument in 2018, and that there's no argument like that right now.
But also, to be fair, there is nothing that would make us think, okay, they are in favor of mining at this point. I mean, I think it's clear that they are in favor of nuclear energy because they said that recently. But when we speak about mining, they are not in favor. One thing is not being in favor, and the other one is to revoke, for example, licenses, etc., if those licenses have been granted, right? But they are not on that point like, okay, yeah, we also support the mining.
Yeah, correct. You are correct. And I think another change that's happened is the Green Party was much stronger in 2018. They, because they've really been pushing this 100% renewable energy, policy, and it's obviously failed miserably. The Green Party has been hurt quite badly by that. So that's also an important thing, is that the Social Democrats, if they're getting propped up by the Green Party, that's probably not a good situation. But if the Social Democrats are just the majority on their own, then that's actually, I wouldn't see that as a negative.
Right. Yeah, of course, that's true. It's not the same thing that
the justification of the Social Democrats is energy security, to accept nuclear back. No, so the point is, if you are betting on nuclear to get energy security, there is no logic in import uranium from where? From Africa.
Yes.
Africa is under Russian control.
Yep.
Kazakhstan is between Russia and China. It's a controlled state by the enemy. So from where are you importing uranium today?
but you are thinking with that kind of business logic that is not always the logic that the European politics have, because thinking about the same, you have also on the North Sea plenty of oil, and they are not making it easy to get that oil.
But the United States sell oil and doesn't sell uranium, and NATO is a United States. So United States needs uranium. Indeed.
You raise a really good point here, though, because we actually, I've been to Parliament a few times to give presentations to the politicians, not just from the the current government in power, but also to the opposition, to the Social Democrats. And as part of our presentation, one of the slides was it's a really shocking slide. It was from, I think, 2023. It showed that the EU gets 69% of its uranium as of 2023 from Niger, Russia, and Kazakhstan.
Yeah.
Niger is gone. That's 25% gone. Russia is super high risk. And Kazatomprom late last year, the CEO from Kazatomprom was saying, listen, we're finding it more challenging to deliver uranium to the West due to pressure from China and Russia.
China is building 21 nuclear sites. 21. All the Kazakh uranium will be for China. So the French nuclear power...
unless the Chinese buy Beacon, and then they will have the Swedish...
I hope the Chinese betting to buy Beacon. Why not?
I don't know if the Chinese would be allowed.
Right. Okay, so in terms of the next kind of catalysts, what is the sequence from here? I think that the first one probably will be the ban lifting. Let's say the vote in November, for example. You have that kind of vote, ban lifting. You know that 1st January it's officially there. New rules. You can start asking for the permits. Then you will go with the PEA, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
We have
Yeah,
the ETX.
Yeah, I can take it from the beginning. So as you might be aware, this spring and summer, we were flying a lot of airborne geophysical radiometric surveys at Viken, our alum shale properties, at our 3 other uranium properties that are not alum shale, so they're higher grade, being Sockjarn, Nine Force, and Ardnasvarre. And so we will start putting out news on the airborne and radiometric results in September. And there's probably going to be about 5 news releases, and that'll probably go into October as well. So there's a lot of information to talk about. It's all going to be very exciting. And then obviously any updates that we get from the government will, if it's something kind of new, then we'll quite likely put a comment out on it in a news release. And then, like you said, in November, could be December, the vote will happen. I mean, essentially when that vote gets approved, that's really when the moratorium lifts, but it doesn't officially change in the legislation till January 1st. So then, January 1st, that's when we really kick into high gear to start a preliminary economic assessment on the Viken property. But here's the thing, we don't know exactly where we're going to do the PEA on the Viken property. And we're not going to know until we have fully interpreted our geophysical survey. So it could be within the existing Viken mineral resource estimate, or it could be outside. So if it's outside of the existing mineral resource estimate, we'll probably have to do some drilling to drill up a mineral resource estimate, which won't be a lot. Like, to give you an example, if we've got, we could drill 9 holes. That would create, and the drill spacing for inferred is 300 meters. So with 9 holes, that would be a 600 meter by 600 meter kind of area. If it's 100 meter thick of alum shale, that would be 100 million tons of alum shale, and then that could be your basis for a PEA.
Yes.
So, and then obviously, we have to do metallurgy and some environmental baseline studies and whatnot. Social license work, community engagement. So say that takes 6 months, but it could take upwards of 12 months, depending on exactly how it happens. Like, if we're using historical data, it goes faster. If we're having to drill outside the mineral resource estimate, it takes longer. And then after a PEA, we would move to do a pre-feasibility study. So that's when we start getting into the geotechnical drilling. We start really thinking about, water management and all that kind of stuff in great detail. And, that could be 1 to 1.5 years to do a PFS. And then we move to a DFS, or feasibility study. And, that could be another 1 to 1.5 years doing that. Again, more kind of detailed geotechnical type surveys, and drilling and more metallurgy and just kind of tighten things up. So, and then after that, you get to the point of, decision to build a mine or not. But along the way, we'll be looking, be very open to a monetizing event. But, I can never guarantee that that's going to happen or not. So we'll take this as far as we can. We get to a mining decision. And if it's decided it's the right thing to do for the company and the shareholders, then that's probably a good time for a CEO with, mine building experience comes in and takes over my role, because I'm quite happy to go to feasibility, but, building a mine and operating a mine, that's not really my sweet spot.
Okay, we can call Paul Cronin. Now that he's not in Adriatic anymore, so it's he's a friend of us.
Okay, good.
Okay, so good point there. And one question that I have in terms of drilling, in case that you need to have to be doing that kind of drilling for the PEA, is something that you can do in winter, or is it too cold?
Yeah, so it's actually this is kind of like Saskatchewan in that when it's cold, you actually have better access because the swamps freeze, and it means you can actually drive out onto the swamps. And it just so happens that the alum shale is quite often below swamps, because the alum shale is like it's like a hard rock that does not drain very well. And when the glaciers come and scrape it, like basically scrape a bit off, it'll create a little depression, and so water will kind of pool and be shallow, and then create a swamp. But then in the winter, that'll freeze, and it allows you to get out there rather than having to use a helicopter. So it's actually advantageous in some areas to be there in winter.
Okay, and before we move on, I like this question from Juan Janeiro, that is saying, give us a headline from the Airborne survey.
A headline, like on which one too? Because we did an Airborne mobile MT survey at the Beacon property.
Okay.
And we did put out news release stating that it's working. So that's like the critical thing. So it's never actually being done on an alum shale to try to map out the alum shale, because the whole rationale behind this survey, we want to know where the alum shale, which is the mineralized host rock of the Beacon deposit, we want to know where it's the shallowest or outcropping, and we want to know where it's the thickest, because that's the best place to do a mining scenario. Because if it's shallow, then your strip ratio is really good, and if it's thick, well, then you're getting the best kind of bulk of it without you're reducing the surface area you have to disturb. So that's better for your social license. Yeah. And I'm sure there's going to be a bunch of different areas that pop up as potential candidates to do like a mining scenario, a PEA. But we'll have to select what's the best one in terms of what's the shallowest, the thickest, and has the best social license.
But the results so far are better than expected, would you say?
I wouldn't say better than expected. It's more like the question we had before the survey was, we hope it works. We did forward modeling, but forward modeling is, with geophysicists, you never know what you're going to get. But we flew over it, and because we flew over the Beacon deposit, we know exactly where the alum shale is. We could basically look at cross sections and say, okay, well, these drill holes hit the alum shale, and then we could do it. We could do a 3D inversion and see, okay, well, that's where the mobile MT is showing that it's present, and it's like bang on. And so it's worked extremely well in mapping out the exactly where the alum shale is and how thick it is.
Okay, perfect. So let's move into kind of funding and capital structure. And the first question is on the contract that you had with Boliden, that also are news from recent days, that kind of contract, it was broken. So my first question is, did they need to pay you any money for breaking the contract?
No, they don't need to pay us anything, but over the next 90 days, they have to cover off any costs associated with, ongoing contracts and whatnot, over the next 90 days or 3 months. So there's going to be no cost to District Metals for winding down the collaboration. And it's interesting because the collaboration was great. We really enjoyed working with Boliden, but the end of it actually helps myself and Hein Rat, our VP exploration, to really be laser focused on our uranium properties now. So of all the timing, it's probably not bad timing for this to happen.
Okay, so I understand that it was something more on their side that they wanted to stop, but you consider that is not something really bad for the company, for District?
No, I mean, you never want a option agreement to end before we only got about halfway through it. Obviously what changed for Boliden is they bought 2 large mines from Lundin Mining, Zinkgruvan and Neves Corvo. And so I would assume they're deciding that their exploration funds should go towards near mine exploration as opposed to more brownfields exploration in the Bergslagen. So that's kind of that's a reallocation for them based on their recent acquisition. They were very complimentary on our technical expertise and on our ability to execute on time, on budget for all the work that we did over the last 2 years. So, yeah.
Do we like landing?
Sorry, do we like which?
Landing mining.
Oh, Lundin Mining. Yeah, well, Lundin Mining's out of Sweden now. So,
Okay.
yeah, they're
maybe they are back. Maybe they are back.
Yeah. I mean, I'm definitely, the plan here is not for District to spend any material amounts of money on our base metal projects in Sweden, but we'll definitely have eyes open and be looking for any other groups that are interested in optioning them. And it really just comes down to the timing of the moratorium looking like everything's going ahead for it to be, legal to explore and mine for uranium as of January 1st. So we really want to be really focused on that as a company.
Okay, in terms of funding, you did a capital raise, I think it was in May. I think you raised like 6 million Canadian dollars. How is the company in terms of the money that you have in cash, in your pocket, the money that you are spending, let's say, per month? And when you need to raise capital, what are you considering at this point?
Yeah, that's right. So Pareto Securities did the last financing with us at 27 cents. There was no warrant. And then the share price proceeded to go up 5 times from there. So it was very successful. Out of the 6 million, 3 million of it went to very well-known mining people. And then I can't say their name. And then the other 3 million went to Swedish funds, high net worth, and family offices. So, and they're actually holding their shares on the NASDAQ listing that we have in Sweden, which was really important. We wanted to bolster up that listing, and I think it was very successful because the groups obviously they got involved with that, started helping to spread the word about district metals in Sweden. So there's been quite a few warrant exercises over the last few months. So we had 20 million warrants. We're down to about 10 million warrants, with about, out of the 10 that we have, 2.5 million of them are at 20 cents. They expire in, I think, March of next year. And then the other 7.5 million warrants are at 30 cents. They don't expire till February of 2027. But because of all the warrant exercises, it's brought in, definitely a good amount of funds. And I believe our cash balance is around 9 million or so. So we don't have any, need to do any financings at this point. We're fully covered off for the work for 2026. We don't know exactly what work we're going to do in 2026. Again, that's going to be kind of based on the results that we get from our airborne geophysical surveys, and obviously, of course, we want to see that, like, get absolute confirmation this uranium moratorium has been lifted.
But let's say that the share price continues going up and it goes, I don't know, to $2 Canadian, and news are good. The news flow is good. You have the lifting, the ban lifted. Would it make sense to raise some money at that point?
Yeah, it depends who it's with. I mean, I would never say never. If it's the right group and it's strategic, then maybe it would make sense. But the worst thing you can do is a financing with the wrong people, and then they abuse the stock. So we want to. I think we're in a great position right now financially. Obviously, I would not want to do a financing unless it was like some sort of strategic opportunity that was hard to say no to. But I would definitely prefer to see what happens on January 30th of 2026, because that is when one of the uranium ETFs has to rebalance, and that'll be, after hopefully the moratorium's lifted. So we should be a good candidate to be added to that uranium ETF. There's no guarantees that we will be added, but I would say, getting added to global X uranium ETF could be quite significant. And it kind of depends, the amount of shares they have to buy depends on what our market cap is at that point in time.
Okay. Perfect. And going now into one question that I have here from the PA is like, from the kickoff until you deliver the PA, how long does it take, more or less?
So the timing on the PA really depends on, is the PA going to be within the existing mineral resource estimate, or is it going to be outside of the existing mineral resource estimate? It's going to take longer if it's outside, because then we'll have to drill off an area and do a separate mineral resource estimate. So I would gauge, like, from when we start, it could be anywhere from 6 to 12 months. Also getting a work program, like typically to get a work permit to drill in Sweden typically takes about 6 weeks, but it could take longer in Jämtland, because there are some landowners that will be resistive of us drilling on their property. Obviously that'll be a big part of everything we do, going out, knocking on doors, sitting down, having fika with them, getting to know them, telling them everything. My understanding is, like, the different categories are those that are pro mining and industry. There's a large group that are just neutral to concerned. And so we need to get really good at communicating. And I think we're gonna start off within a few months here by putting out a website that's got a bunch of questions and answers. It'll be in Swedish. It'll have, contact, so people can reach out to us with any questions or concerns they have. But it'll just have basically information on uranium, on exploration, mining. It'll have references to, technical reports if they really want to go down deep dive and whatnot. So, So what I'm getting at here is that when we go to apply for drilling on some people's properties, it might take longer than the usual six weeks.
Okay, perfect. And where do you expect the biggest gains as compared with the latest PEA?
So the 2014 PEA did not include vanadium or potash, which are two of the most valuable mineral that are contained within the Viken deposit. So that will definitely be included. We'll also be looking at rare earth elements. I should also mention molybdenum was not included in the 2014 PEA, so we'll make sure that's added. That's in our mineral resource estimate, I think the grade of molybdenum was like 300 to 400 parts per million, and that's a kind of grade that you would find in a copper porphyry. So it's not insignificant at all.
Yeah. Okay. Are you planning, by the way, to prepare and share any kind of RNS tomorrow based on yesterday's? Like, is something coming or no?
Oh, sorry, preparing like a press release on today's news?
Yeah.
Possibly. Possibly. I'm looking into it. So initially when these events happened, I remember we rushed out a news release about it, and we didn't quite get it 100% right. So now when the government does, a press release or talks about the uranium moratorium, we're a bit more careful, and we'll do our draft up. We kind of talk to our public affairs consultant to make sure that we've just nailed it on point, because we don't want to get any little bit even a little bit obscure.
Okay. And are you still thinking about kind of pace the start of 50 to 100 ton uranium per year, like in terms of mining, like doing small bits or?
Yeah, so I think previously, in previous economic studies at the Viken deposit, the mining scenario contemplated like a mega pit, which makes zero sense because the capex is crazy. You would oversupply the world with vanadium, and your social license would not be good. So going a smaller open pit, like something that's 600 meters by 600 meters, that's it's like a quarry. And there's actually a lot of limestone quarries in Jämtland. So it could be similar to that. So again, if you had a pit that was 600 meters by 600 meters in area, and then had 100 meters thick of alum shell, that's 100 million tons of material. You mine that out over like 10 years, and then that's pretty good, I think, for a starter. And then there's also the whole mineral resource estimate that you can kind of extrapolate to if you want.
Okay. And in terms of metallurgy, like what is your current preferred flow sheet for Viken's alum shale? Like, do you have any kind of idea on how are you gonna do it?
Yeah. So previously, bioheap leach was contemplated, and bioheap leach is actually being utilized at a black shale deposit in Finland. It's Talvivaara or Sotkamo, and it's actually working really well. And that's for a black shale deposit that has a little bit of uranium. I'm talking like 25 parts per million. It's like very, very low. It's got nickel, copper, zinc, but with the bioheap leach, it takes up a huge area. So the more surface area you take up, the more it kind of impacts your social license. So I think for Viken, and again, I'm talking, just very preliminary thoughts, but to me, it would make more sense to go for more of a conventional processing facility that's smaller, because the idea you'd be, handling much less material. And then it would be something like you crush it, you roast it, you grind it, you come down, and there's a solvent. No, I'm missing a few steps. There's flotation of the pyrite and the mica that gets out some of your base metals, the sulfides, and then you filter it. You crystallize out the potash, and then you do solvent extraction for the uranium and the vanadium. And that's kind of a flow chart
for everything
that could potentially work, but we have a lot of work to do, on the metallurgy side for sure to firm that up.
Okay.
A lot of good work has been done on alum shales over the last 10 years for sure. I mean, the first alum shale deposit that was mined was in the 1960s, Ranstad in Sweden, and they just did a small amount. It was very crudely done. I think they just basically burnt it to extract out the uranium. They still got, I think, 80% recovery on the uranium, but they weren't able to recover anything else with how crudely they did it. But they were also trying to produce their own uranium for different reasons.
Okay, perfect. If you are, let's just speak about the potential sale of I don't know if the company or the asset at least, okay? But first of all, are you receiving already interest from some buyers?
I mean, I've had conversations, but I wouldn't say interest. It's too early for any kind of real interest, and I don't think any major mining company would take the time to do any kind of deep dive on any project where one of the commodities is under moratorium. So
okay.
Yeah, but I mean, like obviously, I'm well aware of potential suitors, and I think that's one problem in the Athabasca Basin where you get high grade is really there's only two potential suitors. That's Cameco and Orano. Quite often they work together, or they have historically, and that's because I think high grade uranium becomes a bit scary for big mining companies. They would need to build out their whole department to handle high grade and all the technical intricacies, like you'd be freezing rock and doing specialized mining techniques and whatnot. But when you come to low grade uranium, it becomes much simpler, and I think there becomes more potential suitors that could be interested in a project like that. Which is good.
What is for you a fair price for DMX at this point today?
I think it's too early to say. I mean, what I usually say is what I know, and what I know is that in the last uranium cycle, Continental Precious Minerals, who advanced the Viken deposit, in 2007, 2008, they reached a market capitalization of 330 million Canadian dollars. And, I don't think they did a very good job of showing the true value of the Viken deposit. I mean, hence they didn't include the vanadium, potash, or molybdenum in their 2014 PEA. But then you look at kind of the tail end of the last uranium cycle. So 2008, Uranium was bought out by Orano, Riva at the time, for $2.5 billion US dollars. And that was a low grade Trikope in Southern Africa, along with some other uranium assets in Africa. And then in 2013, Extract Resources got bought out by CGN, a Chinese nuclear state-owned company, for 2.2 billion Australian dollars for 90% of it. So, you had two multi-billion-dollar monetizing events on low-grade uranium assets, and I think that's very positive. So that kind of gives you a range of where Continental was and where monetizing events have happened. If it happens for district or where it lands, I can't really say.
Okay, and in terms of, let's say, a sale, do you think it will be, or potentially there are more chances that it will be like buying the whole company, or it will be buying the asset and the company is full of cash? Will you keep any kind of royalties? I know that you can not say because it's not something that's happening now, but what do you think that has more chances?
Whether it's the company or just the asset, to me, the key thing are the shareholders. And I mean, I'm one. Like I've over 4 million shares myself that I've bought, between 12 and 44 cents. So I'm definitely looking out for that part of my investment in District Metals. I would prefer to see, if there was a monetizing event, like cash primarily, unless it's a good company and there's shares a component to it, then okay, maybe that makes sense. I'm not really a big fan of the royalty side, because then it's going to take, could take another,
to be there, stuck in a way.
Yeah, I prefer to get, the more immediate reward, cash shares, and then that's it, and try to make, the deals less cumbersome, because then you save on legal fees.
True.
Okay.
That's true. That's so true.
One question, Garrett. In case of everything goes well, finally, Japanese come and buys Viken and pays more than everyone, 30 Canadian, $5,000 million. How do you think you can retribute this money to the shareholders? What ideas do you have if in one moment a lot of money comes in? How? Dividends or?
Espera, que lo traduzco. His question is his question is that basically, if instead of selling the whole company, like 7 Canadian dollars per share, and that's it. Instead of that, you are selling the asset, and you get suddenly 5 billion in your pocket, like in the company's pocket. Like, are you gonna do, I don't know, like a big dividend for the shareholders, or how do you contemplate that?
Absolutely a dividend. Yeah. I think that's or you just say, okay, listen, you guys, you tell the suitor, you buy our company and subsidiary that's holding the Beacon, and we're going to just spin off the other properties into a new company altogether with a different subsidiary. So that's a clean way of doing it too. That's what we did when I was at Alpha Minerals. That's what Fission Uranium has done a few times. I think they're up to F4. And those weren't on monetizing events necessarily, but they were on like make a discovery, spin out, make a discovery, spin out. Yeah. So there's some good, shareholder value generated that way, I think, for sure.
I have a question, Garrett.
Yeah.
Do you think to make a spin-off of Tontibor right now and separate polymetallic from uranium deposits?
Yeah. So before the termination of the collaboration with Boliden, I kind of had that mindset. But right now, the zinc dominant base metal market is not supportive, I don't think, of a standalone company in Sweden to be successful. So if we were to spin out the uranium assets into, say, District Energy and leave District Metals with Tomtebo and Gruvberget, which are the zinc dominant base metals, I don't think it would do very well. And I wouldn't want to just create a new company that fails. So I think there could be it would have been better to do that with Boliden as a partner, as a bit of a cornerstone. But maybe there is a time when things pick up a bit for zinc base metals, but right now is not the time.
Yeah.
Okay. And share price right now, I'm just watching here, is 98 cents Canadian. Okay. Why the share price is down 22% today?
Yeah, so I spent most of my morning trying to figure that out, and some of the thoughts that have come up here. Sell on good news. That's definitely buy on rumor. That seems to be what happened on Monday. I mean, we put out bad news. I thought it was bad news with the termination of the collaboration with Boliden, and initially it didn't do so well, the share price, and then Romina said that she was doing a press briefing, and then poof, and then it took off. So it kind of did the opposite. And then today it did complete inverse of what it did on Monday. So that immediately makes me think, buy on rumor, sell on news. But the amount of volume is pretty insane. Like I see over 10 million shares on all the exchanges for the TSX. And it could be quant funds that are playing games, and I have noticed a lot over the last few months that there has been a lot of buying by anonymous, a lot. So maybe that was one or several quant funds that were kind of accumulating to get to this point and create chaos. They saw a lot of volume, and they're taking advantage of a situation of sell on news. And then it's also apparent that, there's been some massive blocks of shares that have been sold at market, like in excess of 1 million. So that makes you think, is that a fat finger? That could be another option. And I guess the other thing is I'm still investigating and exactly trying to find out better answers than those three.
And it could be also that the minister wasn't really clear on the local veto, and maybe it seemed like, there is going to be the national ban lifted, but we knew that already, so that's no news, right? And the things, at least, and I'm speaking here for myself, right? Like, for me, my mind is like, if you want to go ahead with this project, you're going to have 2 vetoes. the national one, the local one. National one, we know that that is almost out, like 97%, let's say, for giving a number, out. So no problem there. But then it's like the local veto. When I was reading what she said, and for us it's difficult because we don't speak Swedish, right? So you are at the end relying on translations, etc. But it's like, well, where we are, because she's speaking about like byproducts, if it's a byproduct, if it's a small amount, maybe in the future there will be another thing that it will come later in time. So for me, it wasn't clear at all. And it's like, are we okay? I didn't know, to be honest.
Yeah, is far, because I did have conversations this morning with public affairs consultant, and as far as I was told, the municipal veto was seems all on track from what it was previously communicated. So
I guess also that if you think about being the minister there, is like you don't want to say, hey, fuck off, to all the municipal people there, and it's like you need to say it in a way that yes, but no, but maybe, but, and at the end you do whatever you want to do, that you will see that in the papers, I guess. Yeah.
Well, and I think this move on or alteration or revision to the municipal veto is actually brilliant, because initially there was talk about just getting rid of the municipal veto altogether, but that causes huge problems. It's not even possible, because that municipal veto also allows municipalities to veto wind power, solar power, hydropower, nuclear energy, nuclear reactors, like enrichment facilities. And so if they were to take it away altogether, that would be catastrophic. So what they've done is they're just doing this alteration to say, well, listen, we're actually going, like, elsewhere in the EU, they don't classify uranium mining as a nuclear facility, or sorry, a nuclear activity. So it shouldn't be governed this way under our current nuclear act. So it's just a small change, but it clears the way of an obstacle for processing of uranium ore into yellowcake.
Okay, perfect. And just to finalize, I have here 2 questions from the people that is watching. That is, by the way, it was almost at some point 300 people. Just to give you an idea in direct, okay?
Oh, great.
So Guillermo Enrique says, is district planning to seek EU strategic project status for Beacon?
Yes, that makes complete sense. Obviously, we would like to see the moratorium get officially lifted, so it's less encumbered with that, because I think if the EU goes, well, there's a moratorium, and it might kind of clutter things up. So we haven't even started any kind of application on that front. And also, ideally, the Geological Survey of Sweden has already designated it as an area of national interest for vanadium, and then bring it to the EU to apply for a strategic project, or with critical raw materials, because the critical raw materials in the Beacon, it's vanadium, I believe nickel, copper, I don't know if the potash is, but there's phosphate. There's phosphate in it as well.
No, potash is.
Potash is in it. Okay. Yeah. And I think molybdenum.
You have 5. You have 5 minerals.
Yeah. So
5 minerals there.
It's got a lot. And then we haven't even kind of really looked at the rare earth elements, because historically, Continental Precious Minerals, they did not assay for the full suite of rare earth elements. They only did a few within their analytical package. So, we're going to have to go back to historical drill holes, or we're going to have to drill our own holes and then assay for the full suite of rare earth elements. Because, even if we're only recovering, 50% of the rare earth element, it could add value to the project.
Okay, perfect. And the last one that I have here from A4 Driver. What about eco concerns, as in the Talvivara mine, where water contamination due to the biohepleaching process you mentioned? could it be key for not passing municipal veto?
Yeah, so Talvivaara was I think it was a private or a public company. In the 1990s, they cut corners in the mine design to save money. Bad idea, because there was some leakage of leachate from the Talvivaara mine. Got a lot of bad press. The government stepped in. So it's partially government owned now, and they changed the name to the Sotkamo mine, but they've cleaned it up, and it's now operating very environmentally well and profitably, and to the point where they're now recovering the uranium and putting the uranium circuit in. Apparently, they were saying only cost 10 million euro to do, and that's gonna. So they started about June 2024, and they were stating that they should get 500,000 pounds of uranium per year, which is enough to supply fuel for their reactors, all their reactors in Finland.
Okay.
So there is some bad press about Talvivaara. Very well, yeah, very, very well put. And I think maybe that might also be another reason why it's not so applicable for the Viken, because it does have a bad rap, but it's more so because it takes up a larger surface area, and whatever mining scenario happens in the Viken area, it should be small. I think small, like the quarries that you find around that region. Yeah, that's definitely one of the
things to
one of the examples that get brought up is negativity around black shales, alum shales.
Okay, perfect. So just to wrap up, any kind of message that you want to give to the people that is watching this? Of course, there are mainly Spanish people, right? But small shareholders that have been, some of them from 0.2, 0.4, 0.8, or maybe some people that today was their first day in the company. So I don't know, what is the kind of message that you want to bring?
Well, I think first and foremost, considering the huge volatility experienced today and the drop in share price, based on the message from the Minister of Environment, Romina, it's all entirely positive from what we can see. There's no surprises, whether it's coming to lift their intent to lift the uranium moratorium, or their intent to change the municipal veto so it's no longer going to be effective to processing of uranium ore. So I don't see any concerns there. We might look to put out a news release on it if we see anything that's brand new information, but I don't think it is from what we've been previously reporting. We're going to start rolling out some exciting news releases starting in September that will go into October based on our airborne geophysical surveys and radiometric surveys, giving a bit more information on those other projects. So it should be a really exciting time. I mean, I'll be doing quite a bit of marketing as well, getting the word out, getting new eyes on the story, and just making sure as many people that don't know about this opportunity know about it before the vote happens.
Right. Yeah. That makes sense. Okay. Well, so I just can say thank you very much for your time. It's been a pleasure. And it's a company that we follow in our community, Momentum, very, very deep at this point. We have actually, we could say, two different channels, one on the club side that is just for district metals, and one on Uranium on the public side, where we speak also a lot about the company. But yeah, thank you for your time, and hopefully it will be the first interview of many, right? Because it's something that we would love, because at the end, our concept in terms of the community that we are building is we want the real information, and we want to go to the true source and not just speak about rumors and somebody saying this and that. So it is very useful for us that you share your thoughts.
Yeah, that's great. I love the format. It's nice to have it casual, so we can just kind of step through questions from the group. It's great.
Okay, perfect. Estás en mute.
For small shareholders, it's very difficult to reach CEOs and people that really controls the companies. So in this case, for us, it's very, very useful for everyone. And the people is very happy. So thank you very much for your time and for all the information.
Y a la gente que nos está viendo, 250 personas todavía, ya digo, hemos llegado prácticamente a 300 en el directo. Bueno, como sabéis, esto iba a ser contenido para el club, pero hemos decidido con todas las cosas que se habían dado, la volatilidad de hoy, sabíamos que iba a ser un día complicado con muchas noticias y esta acción tiene mucha volatilidad, así que por lo menos habéis podido ver este directo la gente que no sois del club. Haremos un vídeo, Mr. Timbits, Cipres y yo, un poco comentando nuestra impresión de todo lo que ha pasado y también de esta entrevista, y lo sacaremos eso ya sí para la gente del club. Así que cualquier duda que tengáis o información que queráis sobre el club, el contenido que tenemos, info@momentum.financial, nos podéis escribir y ahí os damos más información sobre el club, ¿vale? Y gracias, Timbits, otra vez como siempre. Y nada, aquí lo dejamos y nos vemos hoy que es miércoles, mañana jueves, directo de Cipres, el domingo estoy yo y esto no para, como siempre. Así que un saludo a todos.
Chao.
Bye bye. Bye bye, Garrett.
Bye bye, Garrett. Thank you.